Good afternoon, class. William Cook here. My research paper examines how American entrepreneurs transformed English football through club ownership, focusing primarily on Malcolm Glazer's acquisition of Manchester United, while also examining Stan Kroenke's ownership of Arsenal and recent investment in Everton Football Club by the Friedkin Group. My central research question asks, how did American entrepreneurial strategies reshape English football, and what effects did those changes have on the traditional relationships between football clubs and their supporters? This question is significant because English football has historically represented far more than a business. For generations, clubs survived as symbols of local identity and community pride. However, following the creation of the Premier League in 1992, football increasingly became a global commercial enterprise. American investors recognized an opportunity to apply business models that had proven successful in the United States, fundamentally changing how clubs generated revenue, marketed themselves, and competed internationally. Understanding this transition helps explain many of the debates that continue to surround modern football today. My research relied heavily on primary resources. These included annual reports from Manchester United PLC, Securities and Exchange Commission filings related to the Glazer family's ownership, Arsenal holdings and financial statements, official club publications, supporter trust statements, interviews with club executives, Premier League financial documents, and newspaper coverage that was published during each ownership transition. These sources allowed me to examine the decisions of the owners through their own words and financial records rather than relying solely on later interpretations. I also incorporated documents, documentaries, public interviews, and supporter materials that illustrated how fans experienced these ownership changes. These sources were particularly valuable because they demonstrated that while financial performance often improved, supporter opinion frequently became more divided. Methodologically, I approached the project as a historical study rather than an economic analysis. I compared primary documents with scholarly secondary works on sports history, entrepreneurship, globalization, and modern capitalism. Rather than asking whether American ownership was simply good or bad, I sought to understand why these investors made the decisions they did and how those decisions reflected broader trends in entrepreneurship and global business. My findings suggest that American ownership permanently altered English football. Malcolm Glazer's leveraged buyout of Manchester United demonstrated how American financial strategies could be applied to one of the world's most recognizable sports brands. Although the takeover generated significant supporter protests because the acquisition placed the debt onto the club itself, Manchester United continued expanding its commercial partnerships and global brand. Stan Kroenke represented a different entrepreneurship model. Instead of financing his acquisitions with large amounts of club debt, Kroenke emphasized long-term asset appreciation and organizational stability. While Arsenal supporters often criticized his perceived lack of engagement and unwillingness to spend aggressively, his ownership eventually coincided with renewed investment and recent competitive success under Mikel Arteta. Everton offered yet another perspective. Years of financial instability and inconsistent leadership eventually led supporters to welcome new American investment under the Friedkin Group. Unlike the hostile reaction experienced by the Glazer family, Everton supporters largely viewed new ownership as an opportunity to restore stability and competitiveness. This comparison demonstrates that supporter attitudes towards American owners depend less on nationality and more on financial management, transparency, and competitive ambition. Ultimately, my research concludes that American entrepreneurs fundamentally changed English football by introducing corporate management strategies, global marketing initiatives, diversified revenue streams, and investment models that reflected broader trends in international business. These changes helped transform the Premier League into the world's most commercially successful football league, while simultaneously challenging long-standing traditions regarding supporter influence and community identity. The story of American ownership is therefore not simply one of financial success or supporter resistance. Rather, it illustrates the ongoing tension between preserving sporting tradition and embracing entrepreneurial innovation in an increasingly global marketplace. Understanding this balance is essential for understanding not only the history of English football, but also the broader relationship between entrepreneurship, globalization, and modern sport. Thank you, and up the Toffees.